They weaponize racism and mental health to make themselves extremely rich.
I totally...
All right, come on. This is my problem. This has always been my problem with this racism narrative that these two have spun without any evidence, is that people around the world, particularly people of colour, they believe it. And why wouldn't they believe it? They're hearing the first person who wasn't a white royal bride say they're racist, these people. So then the damage is palpable. It's tangible, and it will lead, I think, if we're not careful, to a load of these countries becoming republics and the beginning of the end of the monarchy.
Thank you for your soliloquy.
No, thank you.
All right, no problem. So first and foremost, my feelings on the royal family and racism are not predicated on Harry and Meghan's willingness to identify it. That's the difference between me and you. We are talking about a country that was built off of racism, and we are referring to the oldest institution in this country that started it all. So that's the first thing. In terms of why black people and many others feel the way that we do, well, the monarchy is a symbol of white supremacy. Okay? White supremacy. That is the reason.
We go again with the white supremacy, the cries of I'm oppressed and all of us are oppressed, and the virtue signaling. No, black people are not crying racism because the monarchy is a sign of white supremacy. They're not crying out for that reason. They're crying out because they're all brainwashed. A lot of them are brainwashed sheep. That's all it is. And they hear the media talk about how the royal family is racist and they all jump on the bandwagon. That's all it is.
Why does it make any difference if King Charles says sorry? Or why does it make if he pays money? What difference does that make?
Okay. So reparations...
How does that combat racism?
No, it actually does. So let me
The guy hasn't got a racist bone in his body. He's done more for racism than any public figure in the country. Why should he be paying for the sins of people hundreds of years ago?
Okay, so can I finish?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, the monarchy is a symbol of white supremacy, which is what black people have had to contend with for the last 400 years, notwithstanding the fact that Elizabeth, or every king and queen, from Elizabeth I...
You think the last late queen was a model of white supremacy?
Let me finish my point. You just asked me several questions. Let me finish my point.
Well, answer the question,
Right,
then.
I'm getting there, so just finish.
Well, hurry up.
Let me just finish, OK?
Hurry up.
So, every king and queen, from Elizabeth I to William IV, has supported and profited off of slavery. So this is about the fact that this country was built off of racism, and that's
this
the
country
point.
also
Wait, hold on a
led...
second. This country
You can't just keep talking.
No, because I haven't even finished my point.
You
Piers.
can't just
keep
make
interrupting.
outlandish statements about our royal family and not expect me to jump in.
Piers, you keep interrupting. Can I finish my point?
This country also led the world out of slavery.
OK, so can I finish my point?
A long time ago.
Can I finish my point, please?
Yes.
Perfect.
But so, please finish it.
I will. No problem. Just be patient. So, every single king and queen from Elizabeth I to William IV over a 270-year period supported the enslavement of Africans and profited as a result. So it doesn't... It doesn't take any genius.
How many other countries profited off of slavery? But for some reason, I'm really trying to get to the crux of this. I'm trying to get to the meat of this. Why do these people, and why do a lot of black people love to complain about the slavery that happened in these countries that they are now receiving their privilege from and receiving a lot of benefits from? Why aren't they complaining about the African countries who also engaged in the same slavery that they, for some reason, love to complain about when it comes to Western countries?
Yes, hold on a second. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that this country was built off of racism and it stems from white supremacy, all of which is directly attributed to the crown, slavery and colonialism. To answer your point, let me finish my point.
Keep talking.
Piers, you keep interrupting.
Answer my question.
Let's have a conversation.
Answer my question.
Let's have a conversation here, guys. Spoke about slavery. Let me answer the point.
I asked you a specific question. Why should King Charles be either apologising for what happened centuries ago or paying money for it?
OK, so what you're talking about is slavery. I'm not talking about slavery. Slavery can be traced back to Europe. The Greek slave trade, to be specific, in 400 BC, then the Roman Empire, and then we get to the Muslim conquest of the 7th century.
And black people had slaves
so, what we're talking about,
right?
Exactly, so I'm not talking about
slavery comes in many forms. There is a lot of slavery around today.
So I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about colonialism, neo-colonialism, racism, racial disparities, and the racist system of oppression and exploitation of black people and white supremacist attributes, which have been rebanded under the
What's that got to do with King Charles?
I am telling you why he needs to apologise and pay reparations.
Why? What did he do?
Anything to do with slavery.
What did he do?
I'm telling you, colonialism, neo-colonialism,
he didn't do that.
Racial disparities and a racist system of white supremacist attributes. That is the legacies of the crown, slavery and colonialism that still remains.
I understand.
Let me finally get my point across. Lord,
you've got your point across, but here's my point, my counterpoint to you. What's any of that got to do with King Charles,
Okay, so
who actually has been, I think, one of the great standard bearers in royal history for actually promoting racial equality and tackling racial injustice.
So let me
and yet you want him to be issuing grovelling apologies for people hundreds of years ago, and you want him to pay money.
Okay, so I think black people would be far more inclined to get over it if it wasn't for the fact that the legacies of the crown, slavery and colonialism still remain, which includes racism, racial disparities and the racist global system of oppression and exploitation of black people. Which
All right, you're not answering my question.
I am, but you don't want to accept it. That's the difference.
No,
that is the difference.
You haven't explained
you also have the wealth of economic expansion as a result of exploitation of black people. And you also have
let Tessa speak now.
Hold on. You haven't even let me finish, Piers. No problem. No problem.
You've done.
I really dislike and I really don't appreciate is they come to these countries, or maybe they say they are brought to these countries against their own will, which is most likely what their argument would be. Why don't you guys go back to the countries where your ancestors are from and build back up those countries? But no, they sit in the West, complain and want handouts and complain as if they were the only group who has suffered oppression. As I've said in previous videos, Asians perform better than both white and black people. So this oppression that black people for some reason love to complain about, Asians do better than white people as well. So is there Asian supremacy?
9/10 of the talk.
No, you didn't let me
Tessa,
finish. You didn't let me finish.
You've heard the debate.
I think you're both wrong, actually. On the one hand, we celebrate, and you certainly do, Piers, the idea of monarchy as continuity.
Yeah.
Going way back when. I mean, I read an article this week that traced the anointing oils to the Old Testament and King Solomon. You can't pick and choose which bits of that continuous historic line you like.
Yes, I can.
Well,
how is that I'm
you
wrong?
can, but it's hugely,
But how is it that I'm wrong?
problematic.
How is it that I'm wrong? What are you
And I
talking
would
about,
counter
Tessa?
to you, where we have the face of history and the physical form of history in our royal family.
White supremacy, that's
When
what
for
I'm talking
example,
about.
France, the Republic, outlawed slavery much later, and in the civil wars in America,
keep
that's what it
talking
took in
about
America
slavery. So
much
let me tell
later.
you.
So
You
my
keep
point
talking
is, no,
about
2
Hang on.
seconds. Let me finish my point.
You see,
Let
you
her
want to
finish.
interrupt, but you interrupted me several
let me
times,
finish
Piers.
one
You
more
did all the
thing.
talking.
I see your hypocrisy right now. It's fine. I
I think what
the other girl a lot more.
What we're doing here is we're
Let her speak.
conflating an individual
Back at you.
family with institutions of state. You can't expect a king to apologise. He doesn't have that power.
It's
He
about
would
what
have
he
to be
represents.
told to apologise
It's about what
by
he
the government
represents. He's already
because it's an
apologised,
institution of
Tessa, so I don't know
state.
what
Do I have to? All right.
He's talked about sorry.
Excuse me.
He
Time
hasn't-
out.
he
Time out.
hasn't actively apologised.
Time out.
In terms of slavery,
Time
hold on
out.
a second. You keep talking about slavery. Let's just be clear about slavery. Yes, you did end slavery. You've made that point and you've made that point, so let me address it. You did end slavery, and there was a clause in the contract that said, for example, that Jamaicans had to work up to 45 hours a week for the following 4 years, whilst you simultaneously paid off the slave owners and left the enslaved in their countries to rot. And then you transitioned to colonialism, where slavery still continued, and then you transitioned to the Commonwealth,
I agree.
where you continue to assert your dominance, exploit black people, and do it in a far
I
more dignified
agree,
way, while
Iman.
simultaneously
I
this is
agree.
all-
But
Don't
it's
tell me
all
about
negative.
There are also.
Nobody's refuting.
Can we all stop talking?
What the heck is going on? This is interesting. But yeah, of course there were injustices caused towards black people, but there are injustices caused towards every single race in the world. But for some reason, it seems like a select few of black people want to continue to complain about the situation, whereas some people like myself don't complain. I just work and get what I need to get in life. I don't need to complain because that's not going to do anything for me. That's the difference.
about
No,
right
he's
now,
refuting
Tessa,
the
you really
repugnance
don't.
of that
Can we
period of
please
history.
time out? The biggest problem with slavery right now is there are between 7 to 10 million slaves in India. Last time I looked, that is not as a result of white supremacy causing modern day slavery. I would rather we expend all our energy on current slavery issues than going back in the
not talking about
past
slavery.
as we now do with.
The thing is, they're not going to do that because they don't really care. It's just all virtue signaling. They don't care about the slavery that's going on in today's society. They really don't. It's virtue signaling, complaining about how oppressed they are, even though they're not oppressed. Although slavery is going on right this very moment, they don't really care about it.
Talking about
We
slavery.
now go back in the past for everything,
slavery then.
wallowing in self-guilt about stuff that had nothing
We're
to
not
do
talking
with
about
us.
slavery.
Paul.
Yes.
Legacies. You
Jump
ignored
in.
that
Well,
conveniently.
well-
Legacies of the crown slavery and colonialism. You ignored that conveniently.
Do you-
Please
okay.
continue.
This is such
Please
a
continue,
negative.
Paul.
This is a
Legacies
negative
going back
side.
how far? How far do you want to go back?
400 years, black people have been constant.
Okay,
constantly-
so
what
I
do you
want.
want them to do?
Okay,
I told you that.
So
I
do you
told
think
you
the
that.
Vikings should be paying me money for what they did to me?
See, you're talking about slavery. I am not. I already explained
I'm not
that
talking
to
about
you.
slavery.
I'm talking about colonialism,
You're not listening to me,
neocolonialism,
Imam.
racism and racial disparities that still contend.
Stop shouting. You're not listening to what I said.
You're not listening to me.
Should
This is why I'm
the
getting
Vikings
angry.
and the Romans also,
Right, Paul.
through their modern day ancestors, be paying me reparations for what they did to my
Okay.
family?
So I'm not talking about slavery. I'm talking about colonialism.
It's not
neocolonialism,
slavery, you're
racism,
not listening
racial
to me.
disparities. Yes, I am.
The Vikings
Yes, I
and
am.
Romans didn't make us
Yes, I am.
slaves.
No, yes, you're talking about the Roman Empire, which included
No,
slavery.
I'm
That's
talking
what
about the
you're talking
Romans
about.
and the Vikings coming over here and causing immeasurable harm
Yes,
to my
which included
ancestors.
an empire and
Should they
slavery.
be? Should
An empire
Italians
and slavery.
and
I'm talking
Norwegians
about
be paying
colonialism
me
and
reparations?
neocolonialism. There's a
In one
difference.
sentence,
There's a difference.
Iman, in one sentence.
Go ahead.
What do you want? In one sentence, what's your
Reparations.
ideal?
Thank you, Tessa.
Money.
You want money?
You want money.
Reparations.
You want money? Okay.
Reparations.
Then I want
Why?
money from the Vikings and the Romans. Paul,
I think the
Paul, be very patient.
No, but the Commonwealth is a force for good.
Yes.
Oh,
Commonwealth
really?
countries. Yes, it is. They
Okay.
do.
Absolutely.
They work for each other. It's a family, a community of families that help each other. That's why it was formed. And
No, you benefit more. That's why it's formed.
no, we don't benefit
No, you
more.
benefit
They
more.
benefit
No,
as
what are you
well.
talking about? You
They,
benefit
they
more.
do benefit. Of
Paul,
course they do.
Paul.
Yes, they do.
Yes, I'm not saying that they don't. What I'm saying is that we benefit, you benefit, you benefit
Everyone
more.
benefits.
Exactly.
All right.
You benefit,
Iman,
you benefit,
Iman,
you benefit more.
Iman,
That's white supremacy.
Iman,
That's what
how
I'm
much
talking
money do you
about.
want from me?
That's what I keep talking about. Okay,
How much
so
money do you want from
the
me?
National Commission on Reparations said that Jamaica, for example, is
How much do you want from me?
1.2 trillion. I'm
How much
telling
do you want from me?
It's not about my feelings and not from you. I'm not. This isn't about me and
We've
you.
all got to
Piers.
chip in, right?
It
So
is.
But you
how
want it
much
from
do
the
you
top
want?
jar.
This
How
isn't
much
about-
money could
No,
I
it's
give
taxpayer
you
in the market.
for something that
That's
had
why I want
nothing
it.
to
That's
do
why I
with
want
me,
it. Both.
right?
That's why I want it.
How much money could I give
No, we're
you
talking
to
about
make
legacies.
to
You
make
keep ignoring that
racism better?
conveniently. You
Nothing
keep ignoring
is
that
the answer.
conveniently. We're talking about the legacies of the crown slavery and colonialism, which includes
Well,
racism.
just
All right.
one-
I don't know why you've
and
come on deciding to
colonialism.
speak
I've
like a
told you.
robot today,
I've
but it's
told
not
you.
it's not
Because
really
you
working.
don't listen because you don't listen. That's
Okay,
why.
But that nor does talking to me like that. Doesn't work.
Okay, well,
Right?
how about
But I will
listening?
happily
How about
pay.
listening?
If you could convince me that it will change racism one iota in this country, I will pay you a check for the damage inevitably that was done by my relatives when they weren't being attacked by Vikings and Romans. I will pay you reparations if I think you have any argument for why I should.
Can I give
And you
you
know
a
what?
response?
There isn't one.
Can I give you a response?
No,
that you're
we've
willing-
run out of time. That's
See,
it.
That's the thing I don't like. I prefer people who stand above things and get through it all. As I've stated, and as I'll always say in all my videos, is the case that every race, every country, if not, I would say all, experience some type of colonialism, some type of slavery towards their people. But for some reason in the media nowadays, all we seem to hear is a select few, as I said, of black people who want to complain about it and complain about white supremacy as if white people are on the top in their own country when they're not. Asians in both the UK and in America perform better than white people, but they never talk about Asian supremacy because it doesn't go with their agenda. But anyway, that was another video, another reaction. As I usually say, if you enjoyed the video, like the video as much as possible. Comment down below. Let's get a discussion going down below. I'll try and reply to as many comments as possible, so comment down below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at YinkaThatGuy, and I am out.